Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Safari Mack Explores North America. I'm Safari Mack, your guide and host, helping you make connections to the wild. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I certainly hope that we all enjoyed our time fishing last week for salmon, but finally we are getting out of the water and we're stepping on to the shores of Anchorage here in south central Alaska, where we're going to begin our statewide trek with one of the biggest icons, or in this case, the second largest land animal in the North American continent, the moose. Otherwise known, but they're also known by their Latin name of Alces alces. So today we meet the creature that is represented as resilient, adaptable, and strong in Alaskan culture. But before we begin, as always, if you're new to my channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Check out my Facebook page for even more conservation content. And finally, if you have a question about animals, or if there's an animal that you want me to do in the future, all you gotta do is just send me an email, which you will find my link to down in the description below. But if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's get started. The family and the evolution. Now, basically, the moose is considered to be the largest member of the deer family, which are even-toed, or what we call ungulates, ruminant animals that populate a great percentage of the earth, from here in North America to some species across Europe as well as Asia, which include caribou, elk, and of course many different species of deer like white-tailed deer or mule deers. But I'm probably getting a little too intense. Let's start off with their earliest ancestors, which was this guy. 50 to 55 million years ago, a creature called Diacodexis was considered to, tracing its lineage, is considered to be the first earliest member of deer. Now, flash forward 35 to 30 million years ago, or at least 20 million years ago, you had something a little bit more like this. This was called proto-deer, otherwise, or the Dicroceridae. So, this early member of the Cervidae family, and I'm sorry, that's the other family fancy word for deer, they first started off in Eurasia, eventually evolving into different species and creating different bloodlines, here in Eurasia, where eventually they would leave the continent and would make their way over across the Bering Sea into North America, while others would go west and populate different parts of Europe and head even down south into Asia. Now, this is an animal that I just wanted to bring up just for a little bit of fun. This is Megaloceros, or Megaloceros. This is otherwise known as the giant Irish elk. If these guys were still alive today, they would be considered the largest member of the deer family, not moose. As you can see, these creatures were big. In fact, their fossils have shown that their antlers were thought to be as long as a human. Can you imagine having to hold that up on your own head? To me, it's a wonder they could even keep their heads up. Moose wouldn't actually first evolved in Eurasia, but they wouldn't appear in North America until roughly around 0.7 to 0.5 million years ago, where they not only populated North America, but they also populated Canada, as well as Asia, more specifically Siberia, where they're one of the potential prey items for Siberian tigers. Now let's go on to their habitat, lifestyle, and family life. Now, basically, a moose's habitat is mostly up in the northern hemisphere, and I mean like the northern hemisphere, like really north, where there's a mix of boreal, broadleaf, and temperate trees that offer them food, shelter, and above all, if you're looking for moose, they need to have a big expanse of water. So lakes, ponds, if they have access to it, it's paradise. And for a number of different reasons. We'll get into that later. One of them is this. Because moose are adapted for cold weather regions, they have a very low heat tolerance. So they really do not like heat too much, as their bodies are just not built for it. They have thick skin, all this fur, So not only are they looking for food in the water, they're also regularly looking to cool themselves off. Now, unlike most species of deer where they form herds, moose don't do that. Moose tend to live a completely solitary lifestyle. As you can see here, usually it's only if you ever see moose together, it's usually mostly because it's a female or a cow with their baby, or what we call the calf. Now, right around this time, at least August and September, male moose are entering a time period called the rutting season. That's just another fancy term for I need to beat the other males into submission just to ask these girls out on a date. So their goal for the next 2 weeks, for males, the next 2 weeks without eating, their goal is to keep other males in line and to mate with as many females as possible. So unfortunately, this isn't Bambi where it's just one and one. It's multiple females, unfortunately. But if all goes well, the male, the successful bull, will help to father a number of calves that will eventually survive and continue the species. After an 8-month pregnancy, around May to June, cows begin to give birth to the calves. Now, here's a little early wild thing. If food is plentiful and there's enough nutrition, that's when females will be able to try and give birth to twins. And so as you can see here, the calves are very different from from their mother. As you can see, they have a bit of a reddish fur color than that of their parents. But then around 18 months later, after spending all that time with mom, she drives them away, or she drives them away just as they are about to give birth to the next generation. So now let's talk about their diet. So moose are considered to be browsers, meaning they eat leaves from different shrubs, bushes, and trees, whatever opportunity presents itself. But they're not just limited to the land. They're also found in the water, feeding on different aquatic vegetation. But here's a little extra fun fact about their diet. So on land they eat a number of willows and birch saplings or shoots, right? But land-based vegetation does not have a lot of sodium. That's where they turn to the water, where they're feeding on lilies and pond weeds to take in as much sodium as possible. Now, weighing 741 pounds, at least a typical moose does, they're known to eat around 71 pounds of vegetation a day just to sustain their bulk. Finally, let's end today's part 1 episode with their influence in human culture. This is the Alquigon. These are Alquigon. So the Alquigon originally gave us the name of moose from the name Moosu, Moosu, which really translates to stripper of bark. So not only has this creature been a valuable food source as well as clothing and even using different parts of their body for tools, they were and they still are today considered to be a revered animal. But now in more recent popular culture, we may know them from the cartoon characters of Rocky and Bullwinkle the Moose, and of course my favorite characters, the comedy-filled moose of Rut and Took from Disney's Brother Bear, voiced by legendary actors Dave Thomas and Rick Moranis. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm afraid that's all the time I have for this week, so be sure to join me next week for part 2 of The Moose. And until then, this is Safari Mack. I'll see you all out there.